You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. And finally, as the world celebrates Earth Day this 22nd of April, environmentalists and scientists around the world are working hard to combat the climate crisis. Here are some highlights. A collaboration between the Yale School of the Environment and two New York City-based not-for-profits, the Central Park Conservancy and Natural Areas Conservancy, the Central Park Climate Lab launched earlier this year to study climate change. Its mission is to use the park's green spaces as a field laboratory to study the on-the-ground impacts of shifting weather patterns and to use the information gathered to help parks nationwide implement strategies to make green spaces more resilient and mitigate the effects of climate change. Dr. Seto and her team plan to use satellite data and on-the-ground data to gain clues about seasonal patterns and how plant and animal life are responding. One of their data collection tools is a spectral radiometer, which measures light and can be used to identify vegetation. With the data acquired, the lab plans to create new strategies for implementing climate mitigation and adaptation protocols in urban parks across the U.S. The Intergovernmental Oceanographic Mission of UNESCO said that scientific assessments show that blue carbon ecosystems can sequester 2 to 4 times more carbon than terrestrial forests. That means they have a key role to play in tackling the climate emergency and achieving the goal of carbon neutrality. The term blue carbon refers to the carbon stored in coastal and marine ecosystems. Blue carbon ecosystems, mangroves, tidal and salt marshes, and seagrasses are highly productive coastal ecosystems that are particularly important for their capacity to store carbon within the plants and in the sediments below. With a sea area of 2 million square kilometers, rich marine ecosystems, and great biodiversities, Hainan hopes to use that to help achieve carbon neutrality. Rewild, a global nature restoration organization supported by Leonardo DiCaprio, has announced plans to protect and restore 100,000 hectares of land by 2030. The group is working with Yves Saint Laurent Beauty at where the company sources ingredients for its cosmetics. The sites identified for protection including a lake system in Sulawesi, a community garden in Morocco, as well as tree planting in Morocco, Madagascar, and Haiti, where primary forest covered 60% of the island in 1920, but now covers just 1%. The mountain range that we're helping to protect and restore the forest in has the highest concentration of species that, if lost, are irreplaceable. Dr. Robin Moore, Vice President of the Communications and Marketing at Rewild, told Reuters, "If you lose that mountain, you lose more species than you would anywhere else in the world," he said. The United Nations says the world must restore at least 1 billion hectares of degraded land, an area the size of China, in the next decade, while the WWF says about 2/3 of the world's animals, mammals, birds, fish, amphibians, and reptiles have vanished over the last 50 years. The project called Rewild Our World will see continued investment in rewilding projects in the Orica Valley in Morocco, 400,000 trees planted in Madagascar, and in Sulawesi, restoring more than 16,000 hectares of Lake Motano and restoring 30,000 hectares of forest. Scientists have successfully bred a threatened species of coral as part of a project that hopes to restore damaged reefs off of the coast of Florida that is under the threat by a relatively new disease, a coral rescue organization said on Thursday. Reefs in Florida and the Caribbean are facing the growing threat of destruction by the stony coral tissue loss disease that strips coral of its color and ultimately its life altogether. The Florida Coral Rescue Center has in recent weeks bred hundreds of new coral of species called rough cactus coral at a 2,000 square foot facility that houses a total of 18 Florida coral species that are threatened by the disease. Stony coral tissue loss disease was first observed near Miami in 2014 and by 2017 has spread to Florida's northernmost reef tract and later past Key West to the south. Species that fall victim to it have a mortality rate of 66 to 100%, making it deadlier than the better-known coral bleaching phenomenon that is typically caused by higher water temperatures associated with climate change. The Florida Coral Rescue Center is in part funded by the Disney Conservation Fund and Fish and Wildlife Foundation in Florida. Miscanthus exgigantus, or giant miscanthus, is a carbon-negative perennial grass that can grow up to 12 feet tall. Scientists believe this grass may be part of the answer to solving climate change problems and increasing precipitation. Researchers say giant miscanthus planted throughout midwestern parts of the United States not only reveals new insights into a natural solution to combat global warming, but also improves food crop production and bioenergy creation.